A clip started surfacing recently. Jada Pinkett Smith at a press junket for her book, discussing a time in her marriage where she chose to love Will and leave herself at the side of the road. Her words. And then someone took that clip, and at the end of it, they cut in a scene from The Color Purple. A man telling another man that wives are like children and you needed to rough them up a bit. That's me speaking in YouTube safe language, to show them who had the upper hand. And the comment section underneath was full of people agreeing, calling her a bad wife, saying she deserves whatever she gets. I want to talk about that. Not the clip, not the entanglement, not Will and Jada's marriage. I want to talk about what that comment section revealed, about the lens that people reached for, about what it says about us as a culture that in 2026, this is the framework that people are still reaching for. This is a case study, not celebrity gossip. Stay with me. Hey, welcome back. Or if you're new here, welcome in. I'm Z, and this channel sits at the intersection of identity, nervous system healing, creative life, and the art of becoming who you actually are. Today, we're going somewhere that requires intellectual honesty about what happened, about what didn't happen, and about the cultural machinery that has been operating underneath this conversation for 6 years without people noticing it. I have opinions here. I'll tell you when I'm stating fact and when I'm offering my analysis. I think you can handle both. Let's start with what that clip actually says, because I think a lot of people are reacting to the framing of it, the meme, the juxtaposition, the comment section energy, without actually sitting with what Jada said. She said, in that moment, because I felt so bad for the situation that he was in, I decided I'm gonna love you, Will, and I'm gonna leave myself at the side of the road. She has since said in other interviews that she deliberately took on the role of the adulterous wife, that she chose to absorb the public narrative, the one that made her the villain, to protect Will's ego and image at a time where he was fragile. Now, you can have opinions about Jada Pinkett Smith. I have some of my own, and I'll share them. But I need you to hold this with me for a moment. The clip being used to condemn her as a bad wife is a moment where she's describing her self-sacrifice in order to protect her husband. She martyred her public image to protect him. And the internet watched that clip and said, "See, bad wife." That's not a response to what she said. That's a response to who people already decided she is. And this is the beginning of everything that I want to talk about today. I want to bring something in here that may seem like a detour, but actually isn't. We are currently in a rare and significant astrological configuration. Saturn entered Aries in 2025. Neptune entered Aries in 2025. They retrograded, came out, and then they reached an exact conjunction at 0 degrees Aries in February of this year. A configuration that by some reports hasn't happened in over 9,000 years. And this Saturday, April 17th, 2026, we have a new moon in Aries. For those of you who work with astrology, you already feel this. For those of you who don't, allow me to translate. Aries is the sign of the self, the individual, the pioneer. It rules identity, not the performed version, not the socially acceptable container, but the raw prior to conditioning self. Saturn is the planet of structure, of rules, of accountability, of the laws we inherit and live by. Neptune is the planet of disillusion. It dismantles illusions. It breaks down structures that are no longer serving their purpose, and it asks us what is real underneath them. Saturn and Neptune meeting in Aries at the very beginning of the zodiac is a dismantling of how we see the individual. Who are you supposed to be? What frameworks have you inherited about identity? Specifically, what it means to be a wife, a woman, a person with a self. Those structures are under a kind of pressure right now that is historically unprecedented. And when structures are under that kind of pressure, one of two things happen. Some people will embrace the new framework. There will be others who grip the old framework tighter. The comment section under that meme is the grip. Let me be precise about what we actually know, because this piece demands it. The relationship between Jada and August started in 2016. At the time, August was 23 years old. Jada was 44. He had experienced a lot of childhood trauma. Both his father and his brother were slain by pew pew violence in New Orleans. He was, at the time of the relationship, battling an addiction with Percocet. He said this himself publicly in an interview at the Red Table Talk in 2018. And here's the part that I think gets lost. He said that the Smith family, and Jada in particular, played an integral role in helping him get clean. His words, meaning at the time of the relationship, she wasn't just someone that he was involved with. She was one of the primary figures of his recovery. I want to be clear that this part is my analysis. That is a power dynamic, and a significant one. The mentor-protege relationship, the 21-year age gap, the recovery piece of this all, taken together, these raise significant questions about the ethics of how this relationship began. Regardless of how you feel about Jada, those questions are legitimate. All three parties, Jada, Will, and August, have spoken publicly about what happened. And all three, in my reading, told their truth selectively. Each account served its narrator. What was left out of each telling is as significant as what was being said. I'm not going to speculate on the specifics of those omissions, but it's worth noticing the pattern for yourself. When everyone is speaking their truth and the stories still don't add up, the omissions are the story. Jada and Will have both stated in various forums that they do not have a traditional marriage. They've been open about the fact that their relationship structure is not conventional. That is the container in which this happened. I think the ethics in that container are still worth examining, but we have to examine them under the correct framework. Theirs, not ours. If you're enjoying this conversation, I'm here every week discussing similar topics, and I would love to have you join our growing community here at the Art of Becoming. Let me know in the comment section, what is your read on the situation? In 1850, Nathaniel Hawthorne published the Scarlet Letter. Most people remember this as a story about adultery. It is, but it also isn't. It's primarily a story about social machinery. Hester Prynne didn't commit a crime. She had a baby outside of her marriage. In 17th century Puritan New England, that wasn't just a moral failing. It was a structural transgression. She had stepped out of the container of what was socially acceptable for women, the virtuous, obedient, invisible wife. And for that, she was made to wear a red A on her chest for the rest of her life, a public mark, a permanent reminder that she had been measured by the community and found wanting. What Hawthorne was actually writing about was the mechanism of that judgment, the way social consensus replaces evidence, the way a woman's transgression of the acceptable female container becomes a crime against the community itself, not just against her husband, the way the mark, once applied, can never be removed, regardless of time, context, or evidence. 13 years before, the actual Salem witch trials showed us what happens when that mechanism runs without the fiction of due process. Women were accused. The accusation itself became the evidence. Their protestations became further proof of guilt. The community's fear was the crime, but the women's bodies bore the consequences. 6 years after the entanglement became public, Jada is still wearing the A. A new clip surfaces, its context is deliberately distorted, and the comment section fills with people delivering the same verdict that they did in 2020. The evidence doesn't matter. The verdict was already in. Here's the question that I keep returning to. Of all the possible lenses through which we can view this situation, the ethics of a power imbalance, the complexity of non-traditional relationships, the selective truth-telling of all parties, the genuine questions about accountability, why does the culture keep reaching for bad wife? It's not an accident, and it's not even fully conscious. It is what the pious good wife framework always produces when a woman transgresses it. The good wife, the pious, the faithful, self-sacrificing, husband-adjacent good wife is not just a social expectation, it's a control mechanism. Her virtue isn't really about her. It's about what her virtue does for the structure around her. Her goodness maintains the framework. Her transgression threatens it. And here is what makes this particularly interesting right now. Jada and Will have explicitly departed from the traditional framework. They have said this. The framework that is being used to judge her isn't even one that she operates in, and yet it's being applied anyway, because the point was never really about her marriage. The point is about what happens when women choose to claim a self that isn't organized around a husband's validation. That is what the comment section was really reacting to, not the entanglement. The audacity of a woman who kept narrating her own life, on her own terms, in her own voice, even after publicly being marked for it. The Aries new moon on April 17th is a planting moment. The first new moon of the astrological new year in the sign of the self during a configuration that is asking us to fundamentally rebuild how we see identity. Specifically, who are you underneath all the things you've been told you're supposed to be? I'm not asking you to defend Jada Pinkett Smith. She is not a symbol. She is a person who made choices, some of which I find ethically questionable, and some of which I think have been fundamentally misunderstood, quite like most people. What I'm asking is for you to notice the lens you reach for when women step outside of the socially acceptable container, the speed with which the verdict arrives, the way context collapses, the way a clip about self-sacrifice is read as evidence of selfishness. That lens was built by something, and in this Aries season, in this moment of structural dismantling and identity rebuilding, it's worth asking whether this is a lens you want to keep. The old paradigm is on its way out. The question is what you're building in its place. That's the art of becoming, and I'll see you in the next one.